Shaily, Hakimian. Wow, the energy from her is so contagious. She's not a social media, content provider. She's not even a marketer, but what she does is that she helps you with your social media to better connect to your audience. I'm pretty sure that's a very succinct definition of what she does. Wait till you feel her energy. The content that she puts out on her social media, on her website and her LinkedIn, etc., is electric. She gives everything away. This is how you do it. This is how it's done. This is how you get closer to your community. If you want to hire her, you can. Your social media Sherpa.com. But wait till you just listen, doing the research on her. I had so many ideas that she gave me. I started implementing them right away. I changed some LinkedIn settings that we had, and she's just so full of energy, and she's got a great story too. She is also a magician. She goes to hospitals with children, with sick children, and cheers them up. Just a great story about some of her traditions. Her view on discipline, very unique. Very unique. Routine is a very big part of it. But it's a great conversation. You're going to absolutely love it. Thanks for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business? And it lasted over 25 years. Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission, how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family, in their passion, in their careers, and how it helped them. Our podcast vision, growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. Oh my goodness, Shaily Hakimian, thank you so much. I'm so excited to talk to you. Very, very appreciative for your time. So, what is the difference between being on social media as a person versus a corporation or a company or a business?
Ooh. So this is a new one for me because for the longest time this didn't connect in my brain, but I guess brands pay so much money for their brands to feel like people because people connect with people. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So that's a huge difference, right? So for a lot of people that I'm guessing are listening, they're probably going to have to start from the people perspective of who they are. And people are going to buy into them based on how much they trust them, how much knowledge they share, how much expertise they share. So that's the little answer, appetizer answer.
It's interesting because companies want to feel more personal and feel like a brand. That's a huge company. I don't know, Nike, whoever it may be. They actually, that's why they have kind of their sponsors. So you kind of relate to the athletes.
Maybe that makes a lot more sense, right? Because people want to connect with people. Like, what am I gonna fall in love with a swoosh? Like,
right.
It's like, oh, I want to emulate Michael Jordan, so I'm gonna get the swoosh with the Michael Jordan bit because I want to be like them. That's part of it. Now, I don't usually talk about this stuff, but it is something that is worth, it's a good challenge question because it's very interesting.
That's a place
to start. I usually work with people because I love, one of my biggest passions is helping people expose their awesomeness to themselves, to their world, and help other people see what I see that makes them special. So, but also what other people think they're special about them too.
And you have this process where you want everybody to kind of regurgitate everything in a Word document or on paper. You want them to get their ideas out.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
So maybe you watch the video series where I tell people this is
A
a
little bit.
very good step. It's like
A
the
little bit.
easiest hack you can do is brain dump what's in your brain, like every FAQ that every lead has ever had for you. Like, what are they asking you on sales calls? What are things they're confused about in your industry? All of that stuff, if you can just get it on paper, even if you have no email, no nothing, you could probably send an ugly Google Doc to someone and that'll help them a ton. Like my organization that I'm on the board for just sent me a document of their FAQs because nobody knows that it's one woman doing the show. They think we're a well-funded institution. We're not. And I'm like, people need to
Mm.
understand this. So getting it out on paper is huge. One of the things I do with my clients who kind of go beyond the public open access video series is I actually pull it out of their brain. So I'll do something where we tell each other our stories of how we got into things. And then I secretly write it all down. Spoiler alert. But I write it all down so that they have their story about why they got into doing what they do, why they're passionate about it, and all that kind of good stuff, which I think you're very good at. You tell your journey about what you went through with your health journey and everything. And I'm sure that helps you emotionally bond with people that come into your orbit. Because I did the first time I watched stuff.
Perhaps, yeah. So is it kind of like mind mapping?
Whoa. Look, I'm not that fancy. If I said mind mapping to a bunch of my clients, they'd be like, huh?
Right.
So
Right.
this is also a thing. Let me get you a rant about marketing, right? Is that there's so much marketing out there. I don't think people are wrong, but I think a lot of people will give the advice for the wrong level of company to the wrong level of customer. And I think that's one of the things. That one, buyer personas, yes, buyer personas are probably important if you're a corporation, but like a small business do not need to worry about it day one. So I'll see all these social media managers being like, you need a content calendar. I'm like, not on day one. Like that's like maybe a few years down the line, but like that's part of why people hate social media so much is because people over assign them what they think they're supposed to do. And then my clients come to me and I give them a little fake therapy being like, you don't have to do it that way. We're going to find your way.
That is
Yeah.
very true. Yeah, so there's just the term mind map, but you were just kind of just throwing ideas down, just stream of consciousness.
Oh yeah, because I think especially like not all my clients are women, but like especially with women, they're like they don't know to validate what makes them
Right.
special, and it's like, oh yeah, that is interesting. Like, what did we say? What did one of my clients, a food photographer, she's like, I'm your superhero. Oh, she had a line. It was like very interesting. Like she can take care of a lot of the little things that most people in her field can't do. And I'm like, that's really important. You can do recipe development. That's a different skill. You can do the photography. That's a different skill. You can do the, whatever graphics. Like she's got like 3 or 4 different skills that usually are independent people that she can do at one shot. And I'm like, that is a very superhero skill. But like she didn't think that that's like the angle that she needs to talk about for her clients who are big corporations. So I'm like, yes, that's gold, right? And so every one of my clients has that, but they don't always validate it. So I'm there to be like,
Mm.
ooh, does this resonate for you and your people? And they're like, actually, yeah. And I was like, yeah, because it makes you look cooler. People are boring and generic. I want to get rid of that.
Right, right. Because everybody's got a good story. Everybody, and
They don't know how to
a
tell
lot of time they
it.
don't know how to. By the way, I've done this before where I've just written. That's not a
I
word.
don't know. We don't
Written.
need words.
Yeah, what the hell? Written like stream of consciousness. Just had ideas, just wrote them all down, and before you know, it's a couple pages. And you know what I did last time? I got them and I threw them into Chat GBT and I said,
Oh
you know,
no.
make this to an essay. And so it kind of like rounded it all out. And it wasn't excellent, but I was able to, it actually now turned into an essay or a blog that I needed to make changes from. Interesting thought.
It's well, okay. I just wrote a post on LinkedIn about how I'm like trying to actively like not be too into it yet because I want people to work out the kinks first. First of all, I hate
Mm.
editing, so I was like, oh, this is more editing for me. But I also hate writing, so
Ah.
I'm like, oh, this could help me with my writing. So I just outsourced this to my VA to like write all my blurbs on LinkedIn because I hate it so much. And my life is 1,000
Wow.
times better, by the way. It's so great.
Is it?
But I don't know. She might even be using it. I don't know. I just want it done. So maybe. But we'll see. Like if it could actually do administrative tasks for me, that would be fantastic. But I don't know if it's there yet. But I will tell you. Okay, wait a second. Sidebar. One of my good friends is an optometrist, right? And he told me that apparently like all this AI stuff is making his job better and not necessarily replacing him. And I was like, huh. He's like, yeah, all these machines can tell you if you have XYZ condition so that they can
Right.
point out problems to me quicker and it's better for the patients. And I was like, okay, that's good. That's a good use of technology. Fantastic. So TBD on the GPT, but we'll see. I've heard it's changed lives, so we'll see. I'm playing with it.
It's good and bad. You just got to be careful with it. I'd much rather edit than write. It sounds like you don't like either.
I don't, but I do like that it makes it easier because I'm like, well, maybe if I upload my video clips, maybe it'll write blurbs for me and I don't have to use an assistant. But I really do like my assistant, so I don't know, maybe. But
I've
yeah, you can't over
I've
rely on
uploaded
it.
definitely you got to check it. I've uploaded transcripts of podcasts, and I'd say, how does this guest view discipline? And it would come back and said based on these, and it got it all. So instead of hiring a researcher to do that, it does it. So by the way,
You
I'm not
research
paid
me
by
through
them.
what?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not paid by them. I'm not paid by
Nobody
them.
is. They're
But
making
I am
money.
a
They don't need to
technologist.
pay
Yeah, yeah,
anybody.
good point. Good point. Good point. I'm not sponsored by them. I guess my point. But I love technology, and this is one, and
I feel
it's
you.
got good and bad points.
That's really
Fascinating.
cool.
Your
Yeah.
background. You're Iranian, Persian, and Moroccan. Morocco, by the way, the dark horse of the World Cup made it to the final four. It was wonderful.
It
I
was
loved it.
delightful. It
You
was
must have
so
been
delightful.
New York City showed up more Moroccans than I didn't know there
Really?
was there. Yes, in
Oh,
Times Square.
amazing.
It was wonderful. What a great showing
It
by
was.
Morocco.
I felt really connected. I'm like, I need to do more for this. Because Iran also did okay too. So I was like,
Yes.
oh, I feel
Yeah.
very like with it. So I did post on LinkedIn a picture of like a bunch of Moroccan things from my life and teaching people about like Moroccan culture. And it was really nice. Like I felt like it was like I think a lot more people talk about Iranians in the US because like LA is a lot of Iranians. But
Yes.
like in New York too. My dad has a lot of family in
Yes.
New York. So like I feel like there's a lot to see there, but like nobody knows really what a Moroccan looks like, and there's not a lot of content on that. But everyone's like, "Oh, I went there on vacation," and I'm like, "Oh, I want to go so bad." And I just was on a call this morning with two Moroccans, one lady in Morocco at the time, and I was like, "Oh,
Wow.
I need to get there." So I'm trying to get my mom to come with so she can give me the perspective because she grew up there. I want her to tell me what happened. But yeah,
Oh.
it is nice to see the country highlighted for the world.
Wonderful, wonderful, yeah, it was so great. They played so well, and just not a lot of big stars. It was just great to see. It was just great to see. So you're not a social media manager, but
No.
you help people connect their social
Yes.
media to their audience. Explain
Yes.
how the difference.
Yeah, so here's what it is, right? Is that I have a story, right? When I was starting in, I was doing social media unofficially in high school on MySpace. That's part of my story. You can read about it. But after that, right, like I started doing social media management a lot in the Jewish community. I'm very active, and I was like, oh, I want more clients, and so I was like, oh, I want to do business world stuff because I've always been entrepreneurial. So I kept going to BNI groups and other business networking groups to be like, hey, like hire me to do your social media, yay! And these are all small businesses. In my mind, I'm like, I assume they all have money to pay someone to do this. I didn't know it was like the wrong demographic with the wrong price point, but like I kept
Mm,
going. It was very ambitious, and so I was in there and I was like, yes, hire me to do your social media, blah blah blah. This one lady, she's an interior designer. She comes up to me and she's like, hey, Shaily, I can't pay you to do my social media, and I was like, it's like, but I can pay you. And I was like, pay me? Yeah, what? To sit down and show me how to do Instagram for myself. And I was like, hmm, interesting. So I was like, yes, of course I'll do that service. I was like, I haven't done this like this before. And then it hit me that my background is in education. I have a teacher's background, right? Which
yeah.
most marketers know nothing about teaching. I've been doing social media at that point for a long time. And I love motivating people. And I really, really love working one-on-one with people. Hence probably why I like doing podcasts so much. But
You're great at
she
it.
opened the door and she loved what I did. And then somebody else from her group hired me. And then somebody else hired me. So for the last, like, I don't know, 4 years, most of my work has been, no, maybe like almost all of it has been teaching people how to do their own marketing. So my people, this is exactly what I do to blow people's minds here. So my people, they're connectors. They go to these networking groups or they're very connected in their industry. People know who they are. Like my people, they're connectors. They're kind of, I say they're influencers offline. Like people trust them, right? But the issue is if you don't see these people on a regular basis to remember that they're awesome at whatever they do, whether they're a caterer, a photographer, corporate magician, Indian matchmaker, rabbi turned sleep consultant. These are all past clients of mine. They're not going to remember that to call you. So that's what I do is I match the humans that already trust them with the information they need to not only remember that they're around, but to remember that they're a genius and a resource in the topic that they're an expert in.
Mm.
So that's where my magic is. And that's where I'm like, if you have a great network, we're going to get you something out of it. And that's the magic of what the Sherpa experience is like.
Yeah, your site. Yeah. Why Sherpa, by the way? That's I know what a Sherpa is, but
So here's what happened. My teacher background, I had some very teachery words in my branding for a
yes.
long time, and my speaker coach, I hired her to help me talk slower. Catherine Johns, she's an amazing speaker coach. She's on the radio for like 25 years. She's a super cool lady. She's like, Shaily. And I was like, what? And I was like, for the last 3 months, I've hated your business name. And I was like, She was like, you know what I've been thinking? And I was like, what, Catherine? And she's like, Sherpa. I like the word Sherpa. You're social media Sherpa. And I was like,
Huh.
and I don't really care that much. I'm like, some people waste too much time trying to name their business, and I'm like, like, I don't know, it doesn't matter. And so I changed it that day on LinkedIn, and I bought the domain. I was just like, let's just see how it feels, which is something I tell my clients to do too. Just like see if you like it.
Right.
And I kept seeing like Sherpa mattresses, Sherpa scooters, Sherpa accounting. I kept seeing Sherpa everything, like all over. And I was like, huh. And then day by day, people are like, I love your business name. You're the mountain. You guide me up the mountain of social
Yeah.
media, and
Yeah.
you're there
Yeah.
to make sure I don't fall off. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I do. Because I don't charge by like the minute, the hour, anything like that. I'm like, you work with me, I will take you from beginning to end. If it takes 2 months, 4 months, whatever, we're going to get you to the promised land of easy marketing that you already will know is valuable to your business and feels authentic to your skill set. So that's how we got the Sherpa word and how it stuck.
Very cool. And so
Yeah.
you charge flat rate regardless of how long it takes.
Yeah, because I don't want anyone to have to guess. I think that was one of the most annoying things whenever I was even hiring people for like hourly services. I'm like, I don't know, is this like a $1,000 project, a $5,000 project? Like, I don't know, and I don't want my clients ever thinking about it. So if they need
Mm.
a 2 hour session, like if I usually try to put a buffer when I can, we want to get it done. And some people are quicker, some people need every other week, some people need a little bit every week. Like it's there to get them to the result, right? And whether we finish faster or slower, there's always the maintenance of it. Like I want them to keep their skills in motion. Like my corporate magician guy, we started working together maybe last summer, and now he's trying to keep going on his own. So he's like, I kind of want you a little bit on deck, but I want to see if I can sustain this. So this is good. I want him to like keep with his skills. So that's the whole promise I make. If we have a set time zone, we're going to accomplish a good chunk of it together. Before I don't want to let you go till you got it. So that's why I bake it into my services, because I think a lot of people trying to teach this stuff, it's like very much this schedule, that schedule. Do I use a session? Do I not? I don't want anyone to think. I want them to just go with the flow and learn as a normal person should. Teacher skills, you know?
Yeah, certainly. And so do you say what's the measurable that you give to them that they will achieve once completed?
Ooh,
Like,
so I have a blurb that I started putting on my website of like potentially doing social media in less than an hour a week, or like, what did I say? Did I say week? I think a week. Potentially. It depends on the person and what they're trying to do. Let me tell you what I wrote down. There's some good lines because I want to be completely transparent. Yeah, marketing flow that works for you and your strengths and your schedule. That's a big one. As somebody who like
mm,
hates writing and hates reading and all that kind of stuff, right? For me to tell someone else who like is like me to write a massive blog is not going to work, right? But if somebody like
mm,
me, like they might need videos, so I help adapt the learning to them. So I don't try to project. Here's the Shaily way to do it. I help them come up with their Joey way to do it. So that's a
mm,
huge one, something that they can sustain and not feel as bad as it they thought they had to do.
mm,
Email marketing is a nice perk for some of my clients that I teach them. The biggest thing that always happens when someone signs on with me is they get to find their golden opportunity or missed opportunity in their network. So for my Indian matchmaker lady, she had a massive email list that was accumulating, but she never sent them a single email. And I was like, what? Like, these are people who've not only like seen your stuff, they want to maybe potentially pay you, and you haven't sent them a single email. She's been having an email list go for like a few years now, and I'm like, she will not miss a week. And I was like, I know, you missed out. Or like I had, and this is a different one, social media wasn't her problem. I had a therapy practice owner in Atlanta area, and she was doing well with SEO. And she's like in her 60s too. She was like rocking it with SEO, but she never
oh,
had an email capture form on her website. So all these people that maybe were sort of interested in getting some therapy sessions couldn't actually reconnect with her and stay in touch with her until the right time. So that might be the one and only time they land on her website. So I was like, we got to get you an email list so that these people can now stay in touch with you and get a little taste of what your services are like. So every client, there's something like that where they're neglecting it, where there's a bucket of goodness that they're not doing something with, right? So that's where I come in. I'm like, we need to give them the right info. let's give them the right intel at the right pace. So those are things that people can expect. Oh, and feel like
Mm,
confident about the content you put out to get more business. So there's a whole page on my website where I like bullet point all of this out really easy.
mm. And I've heard you like talking to photographers and
Yeah,
Mike McAllowitz there,
I
Profit
loved
First, and
Mike. That was fun.
yeah, it was great. Yeah, I've seen him speak a few times. Love his book.
Me
But
too. I
so
read two of
uh,
them.
yeah, he's really good at that, and he's a great speaker. But so do you? It would seem you're much better at those kind of verticals because you have experience in them. But if a client comes to you that does something that you've never worked
It's
before,
my
you'll just
favorite.
adapt.
It doesn't
Ah,
matter. It doesn't matter
doesn't
what
matter.
they've done because the ultimate thing is the same is if they have the right eyeballs of people that could be buying their service and then we're pulling out the right information. Now, granted, I try not to touch too much. Like I don't touch, usually a lot of my people are service-based businesses where there's like a leader that's very well connected. Those are usually my thing, but I've had a couple passion projects sneak in there and I was like, it's not going to be quick. I'm just letting you know this will work, but it's going to take a lot longer and a lot more work for somebody that doesn't have a network. But I
Uh,
love, give me something weird, give me something obscure. I'm in for it. Like that's like my favorite. Like Indian matchmaker, never thought of that. My rabbi or one of the rabbis I had locally was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a sleep consultant now," and I was like, "When the f did that happen?" And then I told him, "Explain yourself," because his content was all like sales pitch, sales pitch, sales pitch. He wrote an explanation of how he went from rabbi to sleep consultant, and then that's the one post that people started actually responding to, and I was like, "Yeah, because people don't get this." So, I love the obscure because it doesn't matter. It's probably even better that I don't know your industry because I rely on my clients have to be the expert. My goal is to ultimately
right.
empower them to take this into their own hands while protecting them from the scary world of marketing and distractions in your business.
Hmm. Does the rabbi that turned into the sleep consultant do his blogs actually put you to sleep? Because that'd
I
be
don't.
something.
It's. I think he does like hypnosis in his sessions.
I see.
So
And what if the business is does it matter if it's really I think you're in the Chicago area, if it's
yeah,
really in that in a particular region or it's global, does it make it harder or more difficult, the regionality of the consumers?
it depends on what bucket of goodness they have, right? If they're starting at
Uh,
zero, it's going to be real hard. So I haven't. Have I had a lot of local? Look, it doesn't matter. I think as much. It's like, do they have the bucket of the right humans? That's what I think
see.
is the key, right? I think that's the hardest part where people are trying to do social media and they're brand new companies. They don't have a network. And I'm like, you have the thing that's the hardest to do in a business, but you just haven't connected it to the tools of the web. Like they know
Mm,
word of mouth works. Like I remember like people said, "Oh, I don't need social media because I get my business from word of mouth." And I'm like, "Word of mouth is social media. You just don't know that it's the same brain power to do both." And that's I think what the biggest thing is when the video series, it's public online. Anybody can watch it as a podcast. It's coming out as
they're
a
great.
blog soon, so you can
They're great.
skim it. Is that it's exactly that. It's like it's how those worlds connect because people don't catch that it's the same thing, and I make it really clear to understand that and blow your mind whether you work with me or not. I want you to get it, make it less scary.
Yeah, you make that really, really clear. But yeah, I do hear that. And let's be honest, it's generally the older generation that says, I go by word of mouth versus, versus social media. And you just kind of got to get them away from that where word of mouth is still LinkedIn.
Yeah, their network's already there. You know how many clients I've
Yeah.
had that they had their jackpot list of prospects already on their LinkedIn? Like,
Wow.
and they weren't sending a thing there or like I have one of, okay, you're gonna love this. One of my clients, she was 23 at the time, had an incredibly connected LinkedIn network, wasn't posting anything. And I was like, oh, stop it. You have so much to say. She had a tech software platform, which was a little different, but I happened to be obsessed with the software. Really great. And I was like, explain like why this is different than some people might compare it to Clubhouse. It's not at all like Clubhouse, but
I
like
see.
she's like, explain yourself, right? How is it different from Zoom? How is it different from this? And so I was like, explain exactly why you're doing what you're doing. Let people see what your thought process is, and people are engaging with her. She already had a like you can tell these people like whenever I do like a pro like I got hired to do a conference where I did a ton of LinkedIn profile reviews live for like 3 days straight. It was awesome.
Wow.
Like one of the young guys, he like posted a few times, and every time he posted, he got like 100 likes and engagements and blah blah blah. And I was like, dude, whatever you post on here, people will see it because people really love you. And I could tell because I adored this guy within minutes of meeting him, and I'm like, this is a whole bunch of leverage for you. Of course, you're going to leave this conference with a job. And so I was like, you have an engaged network. You have a great opportunity here that a lot of the people that have walked by my booth don't have. So use that resource wisely because people trust you and you can see it in the numbers.
You make an also point, another great point. We kind of referred to email earlier, where you try to eventually get the people off of social media and to
Yeah,
your email list because you can control that better.
man, that was a hard lesson learned. 'Cause I didn't realize that. It didn't click to me till my email marketer friend pointed it out. Because yeah, these platforms can kick you off tomorrow, and it's
Right.
devastating. Or your social media manager can hijack your account. I think that hasn't happened as much, but I've seen it happen before. Or you never know, you might violate a term of service. Like there was a friend that I referred to a social media manager, and she's a sex therapist, and like sex therapists have to, there's a whole list of words they cannot type on Instagram because they're going to be
Uh,
basically banned. And I was like, oh, like to do that, like that's painfully difficult, and it's really hard, and I'm like, ugh, how do you do that? um it's tricky. So that's why getting them off to an email is very strong. But it's like, what do they say? Don't build your house on someone else's land. It can
mm,
happen. I don't want it to happen, but it's good. But also, the people that get on the mailing list too, like they're that much more invested in your business, and they're that
right.
much warmer to possibly close. So you have a lot more opportunity to be a little bit more salesy. I'm not super pushy with my email list, but it is a great way for to stay in people's minds when they're not necessarily ready to hire me, and they can pop up later at a future date. It's much easier than following a CRM. Like I hate the admin of like CRM, follow up with this person, follow up with that. Like that is
Mm,
not my
mm.
thing. There's sales dudes out there that will rocket it. I'm like, that is not my superpower. That is anxiety to me. So let my email do the work. So it can work for my clients.
And Shaily, how does being a magician play into all this?
So I've loved magic since I was a kid. And I've taken magic classes when I was in, I don't know, sixth grade maybe. And then I taught a magic class in college during student teaching for a month. That was fun. Friends that are magicians. And then, I don't know, was it like 7, 8 years ago? I became a hospital magician, and I did magic for kids in the hospital. So it just comes up every gaggle of years where I get back into it. And then I was also a member of the Chicago Magic Lounge, which is revolutionizing magic for the world, honestly.
Really?
So I was very much into it for a long time. And then COVID kind of quieted. But then one of my clients is one of my magician buddies who does corporate magic. So I'm still in the loop in very weird ways, but I love it. It's a beautiful art form that is just, it's coming back in a new way. And I'm so excited.
And it's got to be a rich community, I'm sure. Very, very interesting people.
Yeah, a lot of it's kind of it's a weird joke. It's kind of like a synagogue. There's a lot of Jewish folks in there. In LA, there was a lot of. I was like, oh, it's like a Jewish community. I was like, this is hilarious. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's a good crew. There's a lot of dudes, but there's a lot of great women in Chicago. And I think there's a huge mix of magicians of all sorts of flavors in the city that I think is fabulous, and it's making it better for everybody. And I'm like, huh. And it's not just like diversity for diversity's sake. We have so many good people in this city from every walk of life in the theater. Shout out to Chicago Magic Lounge is doing a great job trying to curate a good mix of folks. But I will say the best thing about when I did magic for the kids in the hospital is that these kids don't get a lot of choices when it comes to what they have to experience when they're in the hospital. They don't get a choice of what meds they take or what treatments they have to go through, or they don't get a choice of who's going to be there with them. It gets very lonely, boring, and a little sad. So like we get to come in there and be one of their only choices that they get. They could
Wow.
actually, we could walk in the room and they could say, I don't want to see you right now, and we leave. And some might say that's a failure, but that's actually the most empowering thing, that even if they don't see magic with us, they now got a choice that they got to make on their own, that they got to be empowered about. And that's some magical goodness that is really, really cool for them. And when they do get to do some magic, whether it's with them or their family, like it just changes the dynamic. And the best part was really seeing the impact when my dad was in the hospital for something else, and we had like this chaplain guy. I don't know how they found out we were Jewish. I must have slipped at some point. And the chaplain guy came in and talked to us for like, I don't know, 45 minutes. And we were bored out of our minds sitting there for like 8 hours with my dad. And he made us laugh, and it was hilarious. And I was like, okay, that was the best distraction. I'm like, this is what it must feel like for a family going through whatever BS they've got at a hospital, to get a little bit of refreshment and a little bit of
Mm.
joy during something that could be very, very hard. And I don't even know what I'm walking into, but I love to be able to bring that joy when I can.
No, that's absolutely wonderful. I always thought those were kind of internal people, but I guess that makes sense. A group comes in and does that.
Yeah, we're it's called Open Heart Magic. So they kind of contract with some of the hospitals here. There's a lot of protocols for the hospital, like what we require the hospitals to do and what the hospitals
Oh,
require us to do. So I was wearing facial masks long before COVID. Some of the
interesting.
patients, we were required to wear them. So it's
Hmm,
interesting. But yeah, it's a good group. And I think they have Cleveland and was it Detroit? There's a few cities that they have. So,
hmm.
and COVID really messed with it a bit, but I think they're coming back strong now.
And you had something kind of traumatic happen in 5th grade where you were kind of subject to some things and you turned it around?
Yeah, a lot of bullying.
Yeah.
Not fun. I didn't have friends in middle school. I didn't really have friends in elementary school, right? So that was a really hard thing. I had to learn how to make social skills, learn how to make connections, learn how to like protect myself, try to like just be less annoying. And eventually I like figured out how to find my good people and it was on MySpace. So I always credit like
Mm,
my own desire to make friends for like how I kind of got into doing social media on MySpace because I was like, let me find people like me, which I'm so glad I grew up with the internet because that would have been 1,000 times harder otherwise.
mm,
And finding a bunch of nerds that like Survivor and Big Brother like I do,
that's right.
uh, game changer, right? And managing an online community for these nerds was very much social media. And I have one of my clients, I help manage her community for a bunch of really cool consultants where I teach them how to do LinkedIn. And it's a blast. But I credit that to MySpace and making sure people are happy to be there and that they're participating and they feel valued, and it still reigns true today.
Yeah, you love the yeah, Big Brother and, Survivor, and also, did you meet everybody from Shark Tank or just
Damon,
some
I met
them in? Yes.
once in person, and I think was it twice online,
I see.
maybe briefly. I don't know if we're BFF yet, but we're working on it. So I did meet two out of the three guys from Friends, which was super bonkers. I shook
Really?
their hands, so now I have to get Matt LeBlanc's hand, and then I'll be golden.
Ah, pretty
So
cool.
fun facts.
Yes, and you also have some happiness hacks.
I do have happiness hacks. This is a good one. Well, so I was like a really sad kid and have friends, so I needed to like boost myself up whenever possible. So
Yeah.
I realized whenever someone would send me something nice, and this is what I do these days. There's different versions of this. You can make it your own. Is I would save anything nice that someone said to me, right? So like maybe somebody, I mean, sometimes people will write nice things after I do a podcast, like you're so great. I was so glad to have you on. And they write like all this warm fuzzies that, or like maybe I've helped somebody learn, maybe they learned something from my video series, or maybe I encouraged someone on a hard day. They'll write me a note and be like, Shaily, I so appreciate you, you're wonderful. And I'm like, oh, like don't cry, but maybe it's okay to cry. And so what I'll do is I'll save it and I'll put it in like a slideshow. That's the format that I'm using these days. And whenever I'm having a sad day, where I'm just like, oh, I can't do anything, I'll just like read through some that I haven't read in a while, and people will just say nice things to me, especially in the days where I don't have access to it, right? Sometimes we
Hmm.
don't know when our friends need a little bit of help, right? But I can read something that they wrote months ago and remember that I'm valuable and that I'm doing good in the world, especially when things are hard. So there's versions of that over the years, whether it's like after I led a debate workshop with college students, I recorded myself just being really, really excited about it and being proud of what I've accomplished. And then some days when I'm, hard on myself and I don't feel like anything's possible, I watch that old Shaily being like, Shaily of the future, you will be fine, keep going. And it's what better motivation than to hear it from yourself sometimes. So that's one of my
Yeah.
hacks.
Yeah, and then, you've got such great content, Shiley,
Oh,
like,
thank you. I feel
on your
thoroughly stalked and I love it.
like on
You're
TikTok,
amazing. I notice you do good research on your guests. I'm like
you know,
blown
like,
away.
your TikTok, some of the things were just so cool. The one that
Oh, you
just
are
sticks out
you
is
went
like the
deep.
it's like the medicine bottle. I never knew that.
Right? Is that crazy? Do you want to tell them what it is? It's
You
so
tell
crazy.
'em.
You want me to? Okay, so essentially, look at any medicine container you get from a pharmacy. You can
Right.
actually like flip the cap and have it twist on. So if you're somebody who's like really has
Can't
trouble with the child
push.
cap, you can just
Yeah.
close it and it looks like a regular cap that doesn't have any childproof. Is that a good way to say it?
Yeah,
Like,
you
flip
turn the
it.
cap upside down, or
Mhm.
yeah, you reverse it, and it still fits in the bottle, but you don't have to press it anymore to release it.
Yeah, it's
How did
magical. My
yeah,
mom,
and
I
you
mean,
got
it was my mom, and somebody
that's
told her
right,
this.
for your mother,
Uh,
yeah.
you ready for the crazy part? Okay, so I actually like quit TikTok in May of last year because I was too
Ah,
addicted. And granted, I've been on there since 2016. I've been on there before it was even called TikTok. Like I've been on there a long
wow.
time when there was like no adults on there. Like I felt real weird. And I was like, I'm too addicted to this. Now I looked at it because I had a client, the 23-year-old at the time was posting on there. So I'll look at her stuff or anything that my family has sent me, but I have not like endlessly doom scrolled. But Instagram is on my case about getting me hooked on them. And I'm like, stop it, I quit TikTok for a reason. But I wanted to put more life energy into things that mattered more. But like Facebook is
Mm,
creeping up on my attention on the web, and I'm like, stop it! I quit for a reason. So it's hard,
it
but
is.
I've had my own internet addictions. I'm trying to be better about it. So
And you make it clear that you don't have to be on every platform. You don't have to
you
be
don't.
everywhere.
And my TikTok is more experimental than anything, right? I don't
Right.
really promote my business on there as much. You don't have to be everywhere. If you're a big brand, sure. But like, my dad, he's an influencer on WhatsApp, right? Not everyone needs a WhatsApp thing, but that's the platform where his buddies are buying and selling very easily, right? He's managed his
Wow.
online community on there, and he charges people a lot of money to be in there. Actually, probably he doesn't charge people enough money, but it looks like it's a lot of money from the outset. But like he's been managing this thing, I think, for 6 or 7 years. He even has a big party every year where people fly down to Chicago to hang out and buy and sell from each other. So it depends on the person, and not every platform's for everybody, right? Food photographer, she probably does need to be on Instagram because it's very visual.
Mm,
But email is a great one for a lot of different people. It's a good one. If you can send something every other week, my email marketers friends have told me that's a good cadence. If you're trying to go minimal, that's not bad. And I was like, I will take it because I don't think I could do any
mm,
more than that. But yeah, it doesn't have to be everywhere. You don't want to split your attention. You also don't want to be a social media manager. And that sounds like a lot of effort for not a lot of payoff, which is why I say focus on where your people are. Focus where those right eyeballs are or where you can bring them, right? So if you haven't
mm,
added if you have a lot of people on LinkedIn, but you don't have your 10 best people that paid you this year on LinkedIn, maybe get them to add you on LinkedIn so they see your content that you're
mm.
posting on there. It's about bringing them to the party, wherever the right party is online for you. Agree, disagree? What's your reaction?
You're just full of such great tips. I just write and write and write. When I watch you
Great.
and you've already given me so I actually went to my LinkedIn after what I said,
What'd you do? Let
I
me see. You want me to look at it?
I gotta tighten this up a little
You
bit.
want to
And
talk about it? Let's do it.
no, well,
I'm happy to
I
give
don't
you nuggets.
I don't think the listeners would. But for
You're being
example, what
vulnerable if you let me judge you, but you don't have to be judged.
no, oh, I'm not afraid of vulnerability.
Oh,
I don't know
good.
if it. Yeah, I'm not afraid of that. Like
Okay, good.
my name is Joe Panone, but my golf nickname is Joey Pinz. It's just easier to remember. So I just thought that I would, have everything in that. And
Yeah.
I'm doing some other things. It's just easier to remember. So I just recently, it wasn't on my LinkedIn. I just recently added that after
Oh,
watching you.
yeah, I can't find you. That seems like a big mistake if I can't
S-
find you.
See that? Yeah, you can only find me under my name, Joe Panone, I'm in the
Joe
tech field.
Oh, I see
P
pin.
A PANNONE.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, you should do that. Did you do it already? Oh, this
Well, I
doesn't
put
look at all like your brand, but oh, you have all these followers. Is this you?
yeah,
Wait a
Joe
second.
Joe PANNONE.
Yeah, this is you. It's got your name. Oh, it does have it in parentheses. Huh.
Yes.
This is a very different vibe than all the other marketing I've seen from you.
Because I own a tech business. The podcast
Oh.
is really, kind of a
Ooh.
fun thing I like to do, but I'm in the tech field.
Ooh. So they're not related at all?
No, they're starting to merge. They're
Put a
starting to
little
merge.
explanation. Just say a little something about the awkwardness. Just name it.
Yeah. It is because I'm interviewing people in the tech field. I don't want it to be exclusively tech because that's boring.
You're so
Uh,
much more interesting everywhere else. Let them get a taste of it.
I guess that's true. I guess that's true. But I
You
like
probably
golf.
already
I
wrote
like
it on
just
your other website.
I
You probably
have.
already have the copy already done.
Yeah, I do on my actually Joey Pins website. Yeah, I should
Yeah.
incorporate more Joey Pins. I do. I am starting to post more things on LinkedIn with the podcast. I've done. You're 218. I've been doing this for almost 2 years. Done a lot of episodes.
Yeah, you said 5 a week or something. I heard another episode. I was like, what?
Sometimes I
That's
drop every
bonkers.
Wednesday. Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, yeah. But it's interesting to me that in the business field, LinkedIn is the preferred platform.
Yeah, if you're in tech, this seems like the spot, unless it's like something unless you're like recruiting developers. But I don't know what
No.
let me see, what are you doing?
I work with
Maybe I
managed
should.
service providers,
Yeah, you
technology
probably need to
service
be on here.
providers, and sponsors, and tech vendors, and
Fonzie.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
this is your
yeah.
spot. There's a very there was like an 89% chance that this is your jam here.
This
But yeah, I mean, you're
conversation
talking
took
about
a
your podcast.
turn.
All I see is about your podcast. I don't know. I guess here's something about a week ago about your company. Oh, you've got so much to do. Wait, if you watch the video series, you're gonna have so many more nuggets to overhaul this.
Overhaul is in order, absolutely. So brings me to my next point,
Yeah.
Shaily. On the podcast, I always talk about what I went through when I started my tech business back in the
Hmm.
90s. I wasn't paying attention to myself. I added a lot of weight. Doctor said to me, if you don't
Yeah.
lose the weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. So
Pretty
I
deep.
I took, I made some drastic changes. I lost about 130 pounds in about a year and a half. People always ask me how, and I just say discipline. I wonder how discipline plays a role in your life.
So huge. So I was thinking about the weight loss thing because I realized it's like there's like a theme there, and I have been working out consistently at least for 2 hours a week
Whoa.
since July of 2020. Uh,
Wow.
Not sponsored by Planet Fitness, but if you have a Planet Fitness, they have free personal training as part of the membership, and it is life
Nice.
changing. And so I did pretty good for more than 2 years, and then I kind of had a slump going on because I wanted to do something that was easy. I don't know, maybe it's like a little bit of Atomic Habits over here, but like something easy that I could repeat that wasn't super hard because if I hated the gym, I wouldn't want to go. So eventually I paid a little, this is currently my situation. Like 3 or 4 months ago, I paid my current Planet Fitness, don't tell anybody, my current Planet Fitness guy a little bit extra on the side to give me some extra accountability, to text me, to watch my steps. And he's come up with a really nice plan for me that isn't as scary as I thought it would be. And it really
Hmm.
reminds me of what I do with my clients is that it doesn't have to be as bad as I thought. So there's days where like we worked out for 30 minutes and he's like, you're done. And I was like, really? Because if he said to do an extra 30 minutes of something hard, I probably would have been demotivated. So
Hmm.
like I realized when I can outsource some of my accountability to like different people with different expertises, that has really made me very, very disciplined at doing what I want to do. And my step count has gotten so much better. I'm hitting my goals like way more often than I was hitting them 4 months ago. So I am more active than I've been in my entire life, and I don't feel exhausted, and I don't totally hate it. And yeah, it's still hard to go to the gym, but it's a habit, and I stuck with it. That's a big one. So I have an accountability coach. I have a home organizer lady who also sometimes coaches me on getting my apartment space together. I've got a virtual assistant who helps me get really organized. It helps me figure out how to like tell her to do things in a timely manner because that wasn't something I was good at before working with her. So I'm sure I'm missing people in my world. But like I have people that help me with different things. Oh, I have a lady who helps me with my budgeting and she helps me figure out how to like look at the numbers, right? So there's a person for everything, and it just that keeps me, I think, disciplined. I realize I need that external goodness, but like now I
Hmm.
know it. I'm like, let me just buy into it because it'll help. So that's probably a big discipline of mine. And yeah, I've kept going. And I realized this year in my business, I need to double down on what's worked. Actually, probably a year ago, right? And sticking with stuff and maybe letting it be a little bit boring, but also like nailing the thing that I do well that's worked for me. Like that's huge because it's so much fun to like be like, I want to play with this shiny object and that shiny object. So
Hmm.
really, sticking with what worked and not trying to like overthink things has been a real huge blessing that I'm proud of. Oh,
So,
therapists are good too. Add that to the mix.
ah, so it's
Use
interesting.
all of the resources.
So discipline, you kind of like it. The things that I'm hearing are routine and accountability.
Yeah, I'm bad. Here's the funny thing. I'm bad at routine. I like novelty. So I try to like
Hmm.
if I have somebody protecting me from getting too out of hand, it's great. Oh, I have an accountability coach service. It's really great for business owners. That's the biggest one. Like I tell them what I'm going to do in the week, like 3 or 4 big things, and then every week I talk to her and she tells me like how to push myself to do high leverage stuff. That's been so huge. Again, I pay to make sure I don't screw up, and it really really helps to have someone else there. So I'm happy to tell you more about that. That's like, oh, it's such a cool service. What else was I going to say about it? Yeah, high leverage, not wasting my time on stupid stuff in my business is not helping. Everyone loves to do the little easy stuff, but the hard stuff to push myself to do it, super tough, right? The fact that
Hmm.
you've been doing this consistently, super tough. With social media, like people want to have a long term relationship with you. So I've been consistent on LinkedIn for what, 4 years, 4.5 years, right?
Wow.
With at least once a month posting. Then I went to every other week. Then I went to once a week. So, but it works. It's hard, but it
Yes.
works.
Yeah, and you've really have you as a child even had that kind of view of discipline, or has it matured?
I mean, I had teachers. I think this is literally what I've been thinking about the last 2 weeks is like school was a lot less difficult for me because I had structure. And then I realized when I graduated college, I had no structure. And that was a
Mm.
really hard thing for me. And so I think having school and saying, hey, there's an assignment due, like I was okay. I kind of did my best to follow. I was not a good reader. So I was always behind in that department. But like I always do my math homework and I love math. I'm more of a math person. So,
That surprises me. I would think you're more art than science. Very
oh,
interesting.
art? Mm, I mean, I'm creative, but I realize I'm
Yes.
more creative when I talk things out. That's where my
Oh,
clients, like, I'm like their extra brain of like helping them push themselves outside the box in terms of creativity. That's all. I love doing that with folks. It's fun. But yeah, no, I love math. I've tutored math before for little kids. Like
wow.
that's how I stay a little bit involved with teaching, but I haven't done it lately because it's just a lot of Sherpa business, and I'm like, okay, great, what a blessing. So, but yeah.
Shaily, what motivates you?
Ooh, what motivates me? Ooh, shoot, what motivates me? What does motivate me? I mean, I have goals. I will say so. Now that I'm moving in with my boyfriend, there's like a mirror in my apartment right now that I wrote all these big goals that I wanted to achieve, and like I don't know, ideally a few years, but ended up being a lot longer than a few years. But I wrote down like date better, maybe a TEDx talk, maybe I don't know, lose weight or something, whatever. Like all these quotes and all these things that I wanted to accomplish. And I looked at it and I was like, I think I've done a lot of those things, but I looked at it every single day. And I have a background on my computer right now that says like all my different goals that I want to keep them in my head, so that every day when I look at my dashboard, they'll say something good. And every few weeks, I realize, oh, I've done all the things. Let me make a new one. So that's always good. All my service providers, they motivate me. I'm sure some medication helps. My brewed cacao, some matcha.
Mm.
Those are a little bit more practical, but seeing people believe, you know what? Here's the deep answer. Seeing people believe in themselves when I know they're amazing, but they don't remember why they're so amazing, or they don't remember what they're capable of, and then seeing them like actually go out and do their thing and feel really proud of
Mm.
themselves. Ugh, that makes me so,
Right.
that really melts my heart. So like making my boyfriend do a couple speeches that he's more introverted, doesn't love that stuff. I made him do it and he wanted to kill me the whole time, but after he did it, he was so proud of himself. And I was like, I know. So yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, I love it. And then hearing it back is always a gift.
So seeing your friends or your colleagues or your peers do well, and then maybe having just a little bit part of it is really rewarding. That's what you're
It is,
saying.
and like when I get to do it for my clients, it's even more like it's
Mm.
like seeing where they started and where they have gotten and how their mind shifts. Like
Mm.
it gives me a high. Like on days where I can coach my clients, it's like tomorrow I have a lot of coaching calls tomorrow. It's gonna be fun, but like seeing them from where they were to where they are and showing it back to them and being like, remember when you started, you were feeling like this? Like, look at where you are now. And it's hard. We don't always do that for ourselves either. Um, so it's good to get a little on the back sometimes.
How do you measure success?
How do I measure success? Oh, this is a weird one. Okay, so this is a very more practical way to measure success. There's something called 10Q. It's related to the Jewish New Year, which is usually September, October-ish. And what they do is every year for the 10 special days of the Jewish New Year, they ask you one question a day and you answer them. And so what happens is a year later, you get all your answers back. So you can reflect on where you were previously. So now I have like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years worth of questions. And I look back and I see how I compared to the year before. And some of my goals were like the same, weirdly enough, year to year, and I didn't realize it. And I was like, why
Wow.
haven't I hit this yet? And then I changed something in the last couple of years, and now I'm like, oh, I did achieve that. Holy cow. Remember where I was struggling to figure out how I was going to pay my bills when I was out of college? Like, I'm in a very different place than that. And it feels like a before and after picture of my life. So 10Q, and I've had non-Jewish friends do it and they love it. It's not religious really at all, other than the timing. Um, but it's super fun. So that's a great way to measure success.
And an example of one of the questions would be,
Like they talk about like what's something big in the news this year that affected you.
Ah.
Talk about that. What's something that happened in your personal life that affected you? I'm like trying to see because the questions are like the same every year. September
Oh,
15th. What is oh, they don't want to, or let's see, public answers. There's a lot of good questions. What
I don't
else
want
do
to
they
get
put
too
in there?
personal, but I just wanted an example. It's very
Yeah.
interesting tradition. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's not a Jew. It's like run by a Jewish group, but it's not like a required religious
I
like
see.
action. But it's very accessible for anybody, religious, non-religious, whatever.
Mm,
So I have one friend who's been doing it for a couple of years. She's not Jewish and she loves it. And I was like, great. It's good for. It's very, I think, accessible to a lot of different people, which is
mm.
nice because I don't think religion is like that usually. So
Right. I usually tell my daughters and my really close friends, a couple of them, right around the New Year time, I say, "Hey, what's one thing I can do better this year? Just one,
ooh,
just one thing, just one thing.
ooh,
What's one thing I could do better?" Yeah, I don't want like a list. I don't want to give
ew.
it, just
They have a list of like which one of the items do you want?
yeah, I just one thing, and that way,
Which
and yeah,
So what
I
do they
wonder.
say? What's a good highlight?
Oh, yeah, like my daughters would say something like, um, less sarcastic. No, I'm kidding. They'd say,
Ooh,
no, 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 just typical things like, um, spend more time or,
oh, I gotta take
that
notes.
kind of,
I'm gonna
yeah, that
send your
kind of
list to
thing.
my dad.
Yeah,
That's cute.
they ended up turning it. Sometimes I remember one time, it says, we love when you're funny. We love when you're, that kind of thing.
Oh,
And you do it separately, it's that way they don't kind of show each other. But yeah, so
oh, so you do get a
I
list.
got it from, yeah, so I got it from somebody and I just kind of done it. But so I guess it's kind of similar.
Look, if I've
Along the
learned
same line.
anything, it's like everybody is really just teaching the same thing. So whether you're doing this accountability program, that system, this training routine, it's all the
Right.
same. It just depends on if you stick with it, which is the discipline word that you love very much. Because they're all like nobody will ever know what the right. I think this is also, especially for the women listening, nobody will ever know what the right one way to do something is. And as
Yeah, you're
somebody
right.
who's like probably recovering perfectionist, I realized when that didn't matter, especially when I got that from like learning poker like learning more detailed stuff about poker, it doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
it's about using what you got and taking an action. And you're taking an action on that. And there's probably like a dozen different versions of it. And this one works for you and you've stuck with it, which makes a really consistent habit of, improving yourself for your family. And I think that's amazing. And that works. I have a friend who says name your year every year, Joe Martin. And so I used to like schedule it in my calendar a year before, and then I'd see it the next year, like, what was my word? Did I achieve it? And it's good. It's a little thing
Oh,
like that can really help. And this is your way of doing it, and it's fantastic. So stick with it. Discipline,
stick with it.
yes.
And don't be afraid to ask for help,
Oh, that's a
when you
good
don't
one.
know, don't be afraid to ask for help. What's the proverb? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, bring others.
Oh, weird. That's a deep one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
I wish somebody told it to me recently and it's just kind of stuck. But yeah,
Ooh,
yeah. Shaily, Hakimian, just absolute pleasure talking to you. I was so excited when you accepted this and just
of
notes
course.
on notes, ideas, keep them coming. Please don't stop what you're doing. How can we get in touch with you?
Well, I am on LinkedIn. So if you look up Shaily Hakimian or your social media Sherpa, you will find me. The other best thing is that if you are loving what you heard here and you want it packaged in a bow, and you essentially want to start working with me at no cost, which is what I say, go watch my video series, whether it's on YouTube. You don't have to put any emails in or anything. You can take it as a course that's interactive. You can take it as a podcast, and it's coming out shortly. You could really skim it as a blog. Maybe I'll even just make it an ebook. I don't really know what the big difference is between those two, but why not? So I want it to be really accessible for how your brain works. And it's only 25 minutes. It's real short, real sweet. If you even just listen to it and do nothing, you will get a better understanding of social media. And if you do take action, you're going to have a lot more clear indicator of where your next customer is going to come from. So yoursocialmediasherpa.com. You will see links all over the place, and get on my
Yes.
mailers so you get more nuggets to your inbox all the time.
Great website.
Yoursocialmediasherpa.com.
Yeah, and you get a great video of you right away being as enthusiastic and high energy, and your energy is contagious and it's
Take it.
inviting. It's wonderful. It's
I love
absolutely
it.
wonderful.
Yeah, you
Oh,
too. You're amazing at what you do.
oh, so
So, and you've had
uh,
such a great mix of guests. I was like skimming through like the last 6 months, and I was like, whoa, holy cow,
yeah, I'm my I love asking questions, and
this
that's
works.
the only
Good
way I
news
really
for you.
learn. Yeah, it's the only way. I learn as I get older. I have more questions and answers. Shaily, thank you
Ooh,
so much for your time. I
you
appreciate
too.
it, and you be well.
You too. Bye.
I know. Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations.